Okay, we're getting ready to go ahead and assemble up these flywheels. So it's for that Indian motor. So we got everything we need here. We're going to start with our left one here first. We got to use our sprocket shaft here. This one has the key with it. Use our big nut, wherever it ran off to, right here. It goes right in there. The sockets we're going to use. Now, this is an 1.5" socket I've cut down a little bit. So I got the little lip in here so that it recesses down inside it there, so you get full engagement on your nut that sits down in here. If you don't do that, you only get partially engaged on your nut. You'd be lucky you only had 50% contact. Most sockets are all rounded up here on the top also, which obviously I cut flat. So I get full contact on that nut. So I'll pull this nut down to 500 plus foot-pounds. So a lot more than other people use. So you gotta use good sockets to do that. Okay, that's how I do that. So I'll flip this up here so you can watch while I work. Hopefully. First thing you do is make sure your tapers are clean. We already know the flywheels are clean. If there's any damage on the shaft, now's the time to fix it, not later. Okay, so what I do is I put sleeve retainer Loctite, which is the severe stuff. So number 640. Put a layer of that on the taper. Then for the threads I use red Loctite. This is actually 3-bond, but same difference. This is high strength for stud and bearing mount. Also for nuts you don't want to come off with. So that one, the key's a little bit tight going in. Bang it in a little bit. Put the flat side of the nut down. And those threads don't match up very well. They go on tight. I'm going to tighten it up. Okay. It's just snugged in slightly. So this needs to be tightened up all the way. So we'll go ahead and get the other wheel going here. This one takes the crank pin in the main shaft. Remember, put the key in here. And we use a sleeve retainer Loctite on this also. You got to make sure you don't put it in the oil hole though. You don't want sleeve retainer Loctite going into your bearings. It could cause some problems. Unless you don't want your bearings to turn. Put that on taper. Slip right in. Our nut. Went on nice. We got our main shaft. And we need a key for that. And that I don't think I saw. Nope, that key is missing. So we got laying around here. Looks like one right there. So you keep your box of junk nearby. Goes in tight. as in it doesn't go in. So we'll have to beat that in with a hammer a little bit. More interruptions. Okay, back at it. Alright, we get a key is only going about halfway in, not even that far. So we take the little steel hammer, we lightly tap it in. Make sure you got it centered up before you start beating on it. And we lay it on the table right here against the flat of the taper, not against the shaft. You hear it when it hits all the way down. And you can see how the key is in there relatively even, but it's a little bit high on the outside there. So we hit on it again until it comes out even. And we put our sleeve retainer Loctite on this one again, just like we did on all the other shafts. I Loctite all the shafts and I torqued the snot out of them. Two combinations to keep them from moving and coming loose usually. Unless I'm riding. I've worked any crank. Especially when you put the nitro and nitrous to it. That really tends to make them move. Okay, we got to tap this one in lightly. We use the plastic hammer, not the steel one, obviously. And we go and tighten this nut down. Now this nut has a shoulder around the outside edge. That goes into toward the inside. Okay, so we got two flywheels waiting to be tightened up now. So we take these over to the hydraulic press and we tighten them. Alright, it's the best I can do for hydraulic press work. It's hard to hold a camera when you're up in the middle of the air. Okay, we take our left side flywheel, stick in the press. Use the press to hold it down there. We've got our big socket out here we got to hold it up here with. We got our torque wrench right here. Need to find something to fit underneath the socket here to pick up this gap. Probably won't be able to see that at all. Nope. To show you in a minute. Close. Too big. Too big. That one looks better. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to torque the hell out of this thing. I already got a short enough cut down socket here. This socket goes underneath to support it, so I'm not ripping the socket off the flywheel when I pull on this torque wrench, because this torque wrench will be getting pulled down to over 500 foot-pounds, which means all my weight will be hanging off the end of it over here. We're going to go ahead and crank the hydraulic press down to hold the flywheel so it won't rotate. So that's what we're going to do. Oop, torque wrench is trying to fall away there. Really hard to show this here and still have the camera not fall off. Try to get a little bit closer there, but it's about close we're going to get. So right now I'm going to have to crank this down. Get a tension on it. torque this thing down. Alright, where's our dial at? And we were flashing about 530 there. That's the only way you're going to be able to torque that nut down. So now that one is torqued all the way in. So we're going to have to check to make sure the rod doesn't hit on the end of the shaft, because the shaft sticks out so far. And you want to make sure it doesn't bottom out down here on the shoulder right here. If it bottoms out on the shoulder right under here, it won't be tight. Alright, I'll get our other flywheel. Same trick. This time we don't need to have support on the torque wrench. You have to torque it down though. I use another one of my cut down sockets here. Get full contact. This is how the 1 5/8 one looked. It was cut down a long ways. Used a 6-point on it. Oh, wrong socket. That was a crank pin socket. We're on the main shaft. Alright, you can't really see anything, I guess. The Loctite's already working on this thing. Okay, going about 375 on that one. The Loctite was definitely biting it. Usually I do them one at a time, but really I'm trying to put both things together here. Okay, the crank pin nut, we pulled that down to 400, 450. These S&S wheels will take that kind of torque. Okay, where's our 400 number at? Too high up. Okay, that one's all torqued. Take the camera here. Now, I got a flywheel to look at now. Okay. So, these are now torqued in there. So this one, the Loctite started biting once it started moving. It was going about 430. Pretty tight. Okay, now I go ahead and put the bearings on here, which is this bearing kit back here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's reset up over here right now. Okay, clean off the crank pin. Take our air line, make sure the air goes through. It does. Sometimes they don't. That would be definitely a problem, especially if you mismatch early crank pins with late crank pins. They don't light up then. Okay, I use my assembly lobe, which I use Torco assembly lube that I use. I'll go ahead and snap up the shaft here. Put a nice good layer on there. Keep it off the taper though. We got our rod set. Go ahead and lubricate them up too. Make sure you get on the sides here. Don't have it running dry. Okay, we got our bearing kit right here. Okay, we gotta tilt the flywheels up like this. And put the bearings straight down. If you're lucky, they don't fall out. Then we take it and we lubricate the bearings. A generous layer on there. This might be the only oil this sees for the first 100 miles. I've had that happen on customers' bikes that didn't check their oil pressure. When the white runs hot, they run it all the way down here before they let me know it doesn't have any oil pressure. Surprisingly, most of the time the motor don't get damaged too much. Okay, so that's all lubed up. Put a little bit of lube on the thrust face on the left wheel. Once again, you want to keep it off the taper if you can. Loctite don't stick to oil. Alright, so now we got our rods ready to go on. On this style here, you don't have a left or right. This can go in either direction. On stock Evo rods, there's an S-curve in it, and they only work one way. They hit, and the rods won't come together very far like you need to. You need to go real close together. So you gotta make sure you do it right. Let's see, this is the right side wheel. So you gotta remember that the forked rod goes in the back. It's a good time to check to make sure you got clearances on your rods and there's no binding, in case you screwed up on your honing. Then we take our sleeve retainer Loctite, put it on our taper again. Keep it away from the bearing. I only lubricate the oil right there. I only keep it on the first half of the taper. It'll squeeze up into the main bearings rod bearings if you put too much on there, so you gotta be careful. Once again, Loctite on bearings is a bad deal. You will lose the rod set if it gets in there. Then we go ahead and get the taper the nut thread area here. Lube up with the red Loctite again. Okay. Zip gun over here. We take the left flywheel. I always do a slight little shift like that to smear the Loctite around. Okay, you should be on a flat bench so that the flywheels are equal distance. If the rods get a shift in it, you'll have a little bit of a gap right here. So you get a little bit of gap when they're not straight. So on a flat bench, it'll hold it straight, and make sure you check with your scale after you're done. So you only want to tighten it just a little bit, because the torque of the nut will shift the flywheels. So I just checked to see how much we got. We have a little bit in there, but not too bad. Then we go over the press, and we go ahead and tighten this one down. And we do the same thing. We pull it down to a 400 plus number on each of those next wheels.